for coming. Those of you who are leaving, thank you for leaving. No, that's thank you for leaving. Like the movie, thank you for smoking.
Okay, is that working?
Yeah, but it's
Really good.
I'm going to get on it. We can all shift down a little bit now. No, we can shift down here. Paul and I have very little space. Microwave.
No, Mike, tell me that.
Yeah,
we're ready. Okay, we're back on. Again, congratulations to Nick. Nick is going out to dinner with his wife and his parents and his brother. And
so now we can really talk about it?
yeah, because it won't be seen. And I just want to say, Dr. Lacattina, well, Natalie Lacattina is not in because she's defending her dissertation today.
Nice.
So I think she's been at it since 12 o'clock.
And she did. And so she's now Dr. Lacattina.
Oh, all right.
Oh, everything is so good. That was the third thing. It comes in threes.
Okay, I turn it over to Ernie. He's got a few things to talk about. And we're
welcome everyone to the regular part of the meeting. I think most of you are aware that we have a Board of Education office that has the responsibility of managing the finances of the district. And it's my view, and has always been, that that's been done very, very well. And so tonight we'll have several components of the board management of the finances, but one of our required by New Jersey law functions as a Board of Education is to conduct an audit of the Board of Education financial picture. And so I'd like to introduce our auditor, Tim Vrabel, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a long-delayed meeting.
Yeah.
I think we originally scheduled it for December, and that fell through, and January, and February. Well, here it is March. If we waited any longer, I could present 2 audits at once.
I was just going to say, you're almost going out again.
So let me just say a few things. Well, obviously, there's no recommendations. That's always the first thing we need to discuss. Everything was fine. As far as the finances go, I'm not really going to dwell on that. I know you're going to be working on the budget presentation. You're going to be overwhelmed with numbers and figures all night long. Just let it be said that the record keeping that we audited, was very accurate and very well done. Everything was in proof. Your use of surplus and then regeneration of surplus is very good. The levels of your retainage are, very good for a district your size. That's, you can argue about good, bad, or indifferent, but in my opinion, you're in very solid shape. I know you have plans for that, using that surplus. Along, basically in conjunction with the successful referendum, which is going to generate some debt service. The more important, the 2 components of an audit, one is financial, which I've said enough about finances. The other is compliance. We check numerous things. Obviously, the 2 big areas are like all the payroll records, activity, and then the expenditure activity, which basically covers your entire operation. And again, I think it's a credit to your staff that all the different kinds of compliance testing that we do, everything was fine. There were no errors. Everyone is aware of the compliance requirements and knows how to comply. I think it was especially nice for us this year. There was quite a few changes in the board office. Brooke moved up, Pat moved in. There were some other people that came in or were relatively new in their positions. Yet the ball kept rolling. There was good training. Everybody knew what was going on, and as I said, complied. And I also said, that's the most important part of the audit. You know, the numbers kind of take care of themselves, but the compliance is the key thing, and that was very, very well done. That would be it.
Anybody have any questions for Tim? Board member? Elise?
I have a question. I just wanted to make a comment that after looking at several audit reports because of the superintendent search, I don't know if the public realizes how amazing it is to have no recommendations. And I just want to credit you guys for continuing, because this is several years in a row, and I think it's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to piggyback on that. This is your first full year,
As VA,
Yeah.
this is my 9th month.
right? So you've actually carried that torch well. That's a lot of pressure to stay perfect. There's nowhere to go but, well, not up. So good for you. Well done.
Thank you.
Mark?
Actually, Jeff chimed in before I did.
Sorry, man.
Just wanted to congratulate you and Pat. The excellent
Thank
job
you.
did.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
That's very well done.
Cindy?
I just want to piggyback on what Elise said. It is very difficult. There's so many guidelines that the state puts in, and when the auditor comes in, they're looking for those state guidelines. They can't be deviated from. If they are, it's a comment. So kudos to you to have 10 schools, the dollar amount of the budget, to have the auditor come in and out as fast as he does. It really is. I type the report, so I know what goes into it, and it's not easy to keep coming out.
Just type our reports. No.
No,
Where is she work?
no, I do not work for Tim. But the reports are extensive, and I very rarely see no comment and recommendation. People have to put in a action plan in order to correct those mistakes and make sure that they're not repeated the following year. So I wanted to congratulate you as well.
Thank
It's
you.
not easy.
Thanks.
Right.
Yeah, two things. First of all, you came in, when you first came in, you had big shoes because Joanne's been here a while. But I think also it's great that we hired Pat, who's a certified accountant who understands it. But I think another thing that the public doesn't understand is, like Tim said too, there's a lot of requirements by the state that you have to follow rules. So running a school district budget is totally different than running other budgets. And that is a very, very hard thing to make sure. And also, one last thing, if you open up the paper a lot of times, you'll see a lot of districts that are in deficits, that are struggling. They have a lot of action against them. They got recommendations, and I see it every day in the newspaper. Just saw one, I won't say the district, last week. So when you're here, I've been around here a long time, and we don't have any of that. That's a tribute to our central office, but especially these two ladies, the business agents, what a great job they do. So people should really realize that.
Thank you very much.
Mike?
I don't know if people realize how extensive an operation the business office is. A lot of talk always gets put into how much room we take up as a board and stuff like, as the Board of Education and stuff like that. The business, you're responsible for a $98 million budget every year, and that is like a huge responsibility, and it's a pretty big operation. So, congratulations as always to you guys, and from what I've seen, your first 9 months have been great, and Pat, yours too. It's really, you're a great.
I have a great leader.
You're a great addition to our district.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the audience about the audit? Thumbs up
Thank
from
you.
Mel.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mel.
State your name, please.
Brooke, great job.
Thank you very much.
Okay. What's next?
I have some additional items, but I'm very pleased as well to accept the audit report, and so will the board be. But we are in a historic stage in the history of the Fair Lawn School District. And one of my jobs as an interim superintendent is to ensure that that transitions are made. And when I think of our future, I think the future here is very bright. Tonight, we appointed Nick as our next superintendent. We have Brooke and Pat, who have just gone through a very exhausting but thorough report in terms of the finances. We have Lisa, who's been a leader here and will continue to be so. Natalie just earned, as I said a few minutes ago, our PhD. We have, for the future, a tremendous leadership team. And I am proud to have led you guys for a short period of time, but the future here is really, really bright. And I want to thank you, and I would, if I were a Fair Lawn resident, be looking forward to our future, because it is in the hands of really, really good people and a really good Board of Education as well. I wanted to talk somewhat about the referendum results, not so much the results. Everyone knows that the referendum was approved. But what I want to talk about is where do we go from here? And I mentioned this to a degree when we were getting the results the other evening. And what I would urge everyone to do is to be a little reflective and understand a few things. The referendum has passed, and so we go on to the next stage. And the next stage needs to be making sure that the project that was approved by the voters comes to fruition, is done and is done well and done within the budget. So I would urge all of you, no matter what your views were in regards to the referendum, let's put that all aside. This is a new start. We will, on July 1st, have a new superintendent, a new administrative team, and really everyone, board members, citizens on the whole, it's time to say, let's do the right thing for Fair Lawn. We had that discussion. The community decided, let's move forward. What do we need to do in our classrooms? What do we need to do with the building financially? This is the time of year that really where school boards need to refresh and have almost a little rebirth, but I think that that's true in our community as well. And I think I would urge you to embrace that concept. I think we have a bright future. Let's stick together. Let's stick together, be very focused, make this happen. I would urge you to do that. I have a few other just very brief reports that I wanted to share, but they are important to me. The other day we had and all across the United States there were walkouts by high school students and middle school students. I was there, Nick was there, Natalie was there as well, Jim was there. What I can tell you is, at this stage of my career, I don't think I have ever been to any type of student program or involvement or whatever it is that was as well done, as poignant, and as meaningful as what I observed on Tuesday. This was planned by our kids, not by administration. You know, we have a tremendous principal who knows when it's time to let kids do the things that they need to do. I was impressed with our students. You all would have been, Mary was there as well, you all would have been very, very proud. And I was so proud of our kids. But really the most meaningful component of that brief experience is I listened as carefully as I could to what our high school students had to say. They spoke well, they spoke with dignity, with poise, but most of them said that they were afraid. Most of them said that they were afraid. I've never heard kids say that to me. They said they were afraid. And I can tell you that I left that gathering determined to do what I can do to protect our kids, and the kids not just in Fair Lawn, but in New Jersey and in the United States. We should not have children that are afraid. And the national calamities that we have faced over the last decade and a half have created a generation of kids that are afraid to come to school. And they express that very, very clearly. We need to listen to our students. The board does that all of the time. We have student dialogue. But I was, you know, I kind of thought, but when I heard it coming from them, I was a little bit stunned that that is the level of fear that exists in this country. That children can get up there, young adults can get up there and express themselves in a brave way to talk about how afraid they are about what's happening in our culture. I did not look at that as a demonstration. I mean, some schools called it demonstrations. You know, my feeling is that that's the beginning of a movement. I think that there will be students all across the United States who participated on Wednesday, who are starting to understand the process of how government works, about our values. I can tell you that when I started my career, I was a social studies teacher. That was the best social studies lesson I've ever seen in my life. I mean, if I were a kid, and here I am at this stage of my career, I learned something. I will never forget what our kids had to say. They were just phenomenal. But listen to the kids. It was just a moment in time that captured me, and hopefully, you know, will capture you as you follow this. Students, in a dignified way, said they've had it. They don't want to be afraid anymore. And I just wanted to finish up with just two routine announcements. Tonight, there'll be a motion about adjusting the calendar for this year. So you know we went over with one school day. I'm recommending April 6th, but under law, the board has to amend the calendar. And then we will have Brooke do her budget preview. But I guess that concludes my remarks unless anybody had questions.
Can I make a comment about the walkout?
Sure.
Yeah. I know from reading some things and some interesting emails that not that there are some people that didn't really understand the value of allowing our students to walk out and to actually support them. But I just would like to say to those people, if they're either listening or if some should be in the audience, that education takes on many forms. And it's part of our curriculum. It's part of what we teach kids from a very little age. We teach them about Gandhi. We teach them about Martin Luther King Jr. and leaders like them. And Tuesday they were in an incredible position to practice what they've learned, and to take their education to the most extraordinary and practical level. And Ernie, I agree with you that this is the start of a movement that youth is getting re-involved in politics and the world around them outside of their phones and their PlayStations, and it's really a good thing. It's horrible circumstances that have provoked it, of course, but it gives a little bit of hope to see that they're so involved in a positive way.
And you know, some movements that we've experienced in our country in the past were the result of horrible circumstances during those times. So, you know, I want to tell you that one of the visuals that I have is, in my mind, is watching our high school students walk out very peacefully. I remember two boys holding American flags, and I remember multiple kids who had on poster boards the names of the victims from Columbine, Sandy Hook, and other tragedies in America. And I do want to say, you know, when you're an educational leader, a lot of what we do is based on judgment. But our high school principal, and I've said this many, many times, is the best that I've ever worked with. But Jim had the judgment to understand that there are times when it is appropriate to allow students to express themselves. And you were able to do that. I want to thank you for your role in that as well.
Mary.
It really was an honor and a privilege to be able to go over to the, we won't call it a demonstration, but to be there. And I have to admit, I was crying because the students were so sincere, so passionate, it was so well organized and orchestrated, and it just was so touching to me. Now, you have to remember, like, I grew up in the 60s where I know social protest, and I also know when it was met with police with clubs and beating people in protest. And I think that it's important for the public to know that Governor Murphy endorsed this as something that the schools should support and allow. But to be there on the scene, and when they asked for a moment of silence, there were 700 students, that's what they told us tonight. You could hear a pin drop. And that was a moment of silence for the dead students. And it was, ooh, yeah. So I just wanted to share that, because for me, it really was an emotional experience.
I have to add one more thing, I'm sorry. Also, deceased faculty, teachers. And being married to one, having a mother who was one, you know, it says a lot also. Because those people go to teach, not to be you know.
Emily.
Not to be killed.
I'd like to change the topic if it's okay with everybody. Getting back to steps now, moving forward from referendum, hallelujah. I wonder, just for the board to know and for the public to know, what we can expect in terms of the timeline for work with the scheduling specialist to address concerns about use of space in large classrooms in the two-year runway.
I can give you a brief update. So we're working with a renowned scheduling specialist called Dr. Elliot Merenblum. He was in the district today. So as of today, we have the Memorial School house schedule completed. He'll be in the district tomorrow, meeting with the staff from Thomas Jefferson. We'll be working on TJ. We may need another day, but we are very close to having the house component of it put together. We have elementary school schedules ready to go, almost ready to go in 3 of the buildings. We want to meet with teachers to make sure they are involved in the process. They have been involved in all of the meetings. And for the 3 larger elementary schools, we are working on those as well. So that's moving along pretty well according to plan. I'm pleased with what I'm seeing with the schedules, but it should be, I think, a good transition. And our plan with the middle schools is to be able to have 6th grade houses in effect in September of this year. I should say September of 2018. And then allow that to take place, gain from the experience, critique it, reflect about it, see if we can improve it, and then as that 6th grade moves forward, at the end of 2018, 2019, those 6th graders will move into 7, and then then you'll have a 6th and a 7th house. And then by the time the following year kicks in, the building should be ready for occupancy, and you will have, at that time, 6, 7, and 8 together with houses at both of the middle schools. So that's my long-term thinking about that. We think it's realistic. We've been very, very pleased with the progress we're making, and it's been also pretty broad-based. We've had teachers at every one of our meetings and supervisors, and myself, Nick and Natalie. So that's moving ahead, and you know, I'm certain we'll be able to. I think the community will be very pleased when they see 6th grade houses opening up at both of our middle schools in September. Be a good step for us.
Mike?
Monday night's education committee meeting here, 7:30, will be about houses and a discussion about houses and talking about it. And there'll be a brief overview of the schedule. It's not quite to the point to coming to the board yet, but Natalie says that we will talk about it, and that's pretty much the whole agenda of the education committee meeting on Monday night.
All right, thank you, Mike. We're gonna.
Lucas.
Oh yeah, Brooke. I forgot.
I'm gonna do the budget overview. I'm gonna set
Sure.
up, and I'm gonna have Pat hand out some handouts for the board and the public.
This is why I wanted to postpone that other thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? Have you talked to Gene lately?
Thank you.
Have you talked to Gene? Any idea how he's doing down there in Florida? Yeah, doing well? Tell him I said hi.
We're going down.
Mark, you got some pension. Tax on your pension, bro.
Yeah.
Mark, move.
Pat, can you help me flip, please?
I will try.
Now we're back on. So I'm just gonna give everybody a really brief overview. This is something that we normally do in February, but because of the new governor, everything's been pushed back a month, so we're also pushed back a month. So what I'm presenting really isn't the budget. What it is what the state has said we are allowed to grow our budget. So while today the state aid was finally released, the software was down, the DOE software that we need to get the information from. So what we're asking is to look at this as an overview. I'm gonna get some information from everybody tonight, and then we'll meet again next Wednesday with some options. So what have we done so far to date? We've taken reductions down where we felt it was reasonable that we can take reductions. Supplies, utilities, telecommunications, which is all of our phone, internet, fax machines. We did a major audit and eliminated things that we felt was unnecessary we could cut down on. We've saved a lot of money outsourcing our teachers. We're realizing those savings. Substitutes.
You said teachers.
Please do not say that.
All right, somebody pick up Dawn.
Facebook just slowed down, I guess it's gonna pick up.
We just wanted to see if you were paying attention, Dawn. It's part of the program.
So what we're also doing is reviewing some of our purchasing procedures. So this year, one of the things we did was we decided that supplies were going to be purchased at supervisor level for curriculum content only. This will help us have similar purchases in every single school, so we have greater savings. And you'll see when everybody gets their budget, we've done a little bit of reallocation. Part of that reason is I do want to capture special education costs to hopefully get some more funding. I've also created lines for security. I have a good feeling that perhaps there'll be security grant opportunities out there for us. So I want to make sure that we have that allocated so that we can, at the push of a button, file a grant for that type of funding. So as I said, we're continuing to build the budget as we receive information. It was finally received today. We're going to spend the next couple of days really working, drilling down into all the accounts for any other opportunities we can find. And of course, our goal is to provide the best education possible at the least possible cost to the taxpayer. So what we don't know still, state aid, availability of extraordinary aid, whether we're going to have the federal grant money available, what our IDEA would look like, what is our pension assessment going to be. So these are the unknowns. So based on flat state aids, when we built this budget, the bare bones of this budget, we're using a flat state aid, and what are we doing with this budget? Well, we're supporting the mental health initiative that we started in 17-18. We're expanding on that in 18-19. We're supporting the district-wide security initiative. We're talking about Special 3 officers. We're gonna continue to make improvements in the district for security and just regular repair and maintenance improvements. And we're supporting all of the mandated requirements of the state. This budget also supports new staff and minor facilities projects. So what do we know? We know that we have contractual obligations and we know that we have initiatives. So our contractual obligations are our health benefits and our salaries. So $2.8 million. We've increased this budget by $653,000 for mental health initiative, $320,000 for additional Special 3 officers. And what we also know is last year we agreed to take the $2.4 million weighted enrollment adjustment. That second half is going to hit this year. So according to our software and according to the state, how much can we grow the budget? So once again, this year, the state is giving us a weighted enrollment adjustment. This is because of our ASSA reports. All of our state reports are showing that we're growing, our enrollment is growing. It automatically goes into the software. What it's saying is, we really should have given you more money last year. We're going to give that to you now and let you grow your tax levy. We also have, you can see, a very hefty healthcare adjustment of $1.1 million. So, as everyone is aware, the state health benefits had a 13% increase this January. We were anticipating a 15% increase for 2019. So what the state has said, we acknowledge that this is something you cannot fit in your general operating budget with a 2% cap. They're allowing us to go over the 2% cap by giving us a health care adjustment. Banked cap. So our bank cap is a term that the state came up with. When you go under what you're allowed to build your budget, they allow you to keep bank cap. We have $70,000 in bank cap that will expire this year if we don't take advantage of that. So total allowable increase that we could grow the budget, $2.9 million. What does that look like on the average house in Fairlawn? $33.20 a month. So this is what the state is saying you're allowed to grow your budget. So those are the mandate items, additional items that have come out during our budget discussion. So at this point, I think we've had 8 budget meetings so far, 7 budget meetings, including the committee. So in the committees, I've heard things about, can we expand mental health in the middle and the high school? Can we upgrade our security cameras so that they're all digital? Can we have security in every building? We know we have a mandated school safety specialist that the state of Jersey created this year. Do we want to accelerate our technology infrastructure moving forward towards a one-to-one initiative? So these are additional items that I'm going to be looking to the board to say, is there anything in here that you want to have us try to keep in the budget and use some of those adjustments, and we can see, well, what does that look like as far as tax impact goes? Okay. And so this is everybody's favorite pie chart. This is a people-generated business. We're in the business of people. We aren't what we are without our teachers, without our staff. So as you can see, 76% of the pie are employee costs. Very minuscule, again, 9% contracted services. We're talking about transportation, aid in lieu, out-of-district tuition. When you look at actual supplies, you're talking about 4%. So 1% for instructional supplies, 1% utilities. So even when we do take those cost savings initiatives and we purchase in a cooperative and we look to put sensors in and LED light bulbs to reduce our electricity bills, on the big impact, it's only 1%. So this is just reminding everybody of what one of Fairlawn's mission statements are, and that is to promote continuous improvement and high levels of learning for all students. So I'm going to open it up to questions now. Yes, Ron?
So the number that you have, the 3320 on average, it says that's without the state aid. You don't know the state aid yet.
That's without state aid, that's without applying updated ratables.
Right.
And that's So that's very.
So that can come down, is what
That
I'm
can
trying.
come down, yeah, and that's the maximum. So that's saying if we took every adjustment that we're entitled to, this is what it would look like.
Okay. Just want everybody to understand that.
Yeah, so it's not, not state aid, the ratables haven't been applied, we haven't updated the, assessed value of the homes yet. Yeah, it's just the same state aid as last year is what's in there.
Mark and then Mike.
Since you worked on this budget, what Ron was just saying about all those other areas that might come through, if they were to come to fruition, what are we talking about?
In terms of state aid,
Yeah.
I think this year it's gonna be minimal, but in the governor's address to the state, it was a 4-year phase up. So a 4-year phase up to being fully funded. So for instance, Fairlawn in 2009, you had $7 million of state aid, we're now at $3 million. So there's a potential that will we be funded back again as we were in 2009. But that would be a 4-year phase in. For this year, I haven't heard through my organization that it's going to be significant.
So out of the $33, what are we hoping for if all those things?
Well, I'm looking to hear that from
Well,
you.
well, you're the ones who are the experts on this, so what areas are we gonna be cutting in the budget?
So the $33 is saying we got everything in there, all of our contractual obligations and any of these items that have been spoken about. So this is how much can we grow. Is there any item on there that you would like to keep, and then I can come back, put that into the software and calculate it, then I can give you an idea of what does that cost with the updated state aid and with the ratables.
See, it sounds great, $33, which is a lot for an average price home, but a lot of us don't have average price homes. So you're looking at a tax increase of almost $1,000 for a lot of people.
Well, that's just what the state is saying, how much we can grow it. We don't need to make any decisions tonight. This is just saying, this is what
We
our
better keep the
software
grow lights
has
off.
said.
I think you have, the thing to remember is that we've had 8 of the mini meetings and tonight. So we have, between now and the time the budget must be submitted, we'll have 2 more board meetings where we will then go over all of these items and say, do we really want this, do we really want that? And I like that process very, very much. I mean, Fairlawn is the only district that I've been in that starts with all the mini meetings. That's how we build the budget. And then we have the hypothetical framework. So the framework here is the state is saying to us, you can go up to this part and you can't go beyond it. And the good part about the budget is now the board members have significant input. You had input into building it with what your wants are. We have administrative needs here and wants as well. And then when we meet during the next 2 sessions that we have, we'll be able to go over line by line and say, all right, do we want this component? Do we want this? And if we removed it, what would the financial impact be? So it's a process. I would ask you not to get alarmed at anything that is part of the framework until we get closer and closer. But the good thing about the process is a school budget reflects our values. And as we go through this, you will see that what the board will be determining in our conversations is, do we value this enough to put it in the budget? And maybe we value item A more than item B, and then we're gonna maybe put in A but not put in B. So, but I like the process is that everybody here on at this table had input. And then we'll now say, okay, here's where we started, so don't be alarmed. Here's where we're starting. Now let's say, do we really need this? And we slowly start reducing, I would think, reducing till we get to a point where we as a Board of Education will say, all right, we think that this meets the educational needs as well as the financial needs of the residents. So it's a process. This is not an end of the process. This is really, we began the process with 8 or 9 budget mini meetings we had. We still have a lot of missing data. That includes all of the federal aids, all of the state aids, and then some adjustments in the levies in the community. So we have a ways to go. But this is just the start. Now we get into the next phase, is now we start refining it, looking at it, making decisions as to what we think is a good balance for the community.
Mike and then Jeff.
No, the only thing I wanted to make sure that people knew was that that figure that she put up there was the maximum figure that we'd be allowed to do it. That is not the final figure, so before people get alarmed,
Yeah,
that's
don't be
not,
alarmed.
that's not, it's just part of the process.
Yeah, and it's also, missing, it's, you know, putting the budget together is like a giant puzzle piece. And there's pieces of the puzzle that aren't necessarily intuitive until the state actually gives us that information. So at a certain point, it's like putting together a puzzle without really seeing, well, what are the pieces going to look like? What are we building this for? So, again, updated ratables, updated state aid, when those things go in. So this is something, again, we normally do in February. It's really behind because the state is really behind. So the entire calendar was changed for us. So normally this is February, and then by March we would have it finalized. So.
Jeff.
Yeah, obviously I'm alarmed by that number.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, so I'm gonna throw that out there immediately. So I'm just in the thinking that the town has been very gracious to us in the past week. And I think it's incumbent now on the board to make sure that we do our due diligence, and we're really going out of our way and working hard to make sure that we're doing our best to make sure that that number does not come to fruition. And I'm speaking in terms of maybe there are things that we could do more with shared services with other towns, for example. Maybe we don't need a full-time security director. Maybe we need a half-time or a third of a time. We could share that with other districts.
Things that were just mentioned in the
Okay,
topic.
I understand.
So
I was one of the people that
if
mentioned
somebody
that.
said, you know, I really want to keep the security cameras in. I want to upgrade the security cameras. That's really important. I'm going to take that information and say, okay, I'm going to put it into my budget, and then when I meet with everybody next Wednesday, I'll keep that in there and show this is what it looks like with this. This is what it looks like.
I understand.
With that.
Yeah, but I also want to throw out there, not only, I'm hoping that we look at that, because I'm sure we all want our cake and want to eat it too. Like
Well, this is-
especially in terms of
yeah.
programming and having the best ratios we can with, you know, faculty to student. But, you know, perhaps this is now the time where we really start going out of our way and start looking for revenue sources. And I know not everyone's comfortable with putting advertisements up there in the gym or on the football field / soccer field / lacrosse field / what else am I missing? I'm sure other people use it, marching band field, but or on buses even. But maybe this is the time we start doing that, because we can't.
Just to put it in perspective, to move the tax impact by $1, it takes us to cut $310,000 out of the budget. So when we're talking about revenue or gaining revenue or reducing revenue, we're talking about
Right, I understand that, but it's just.
$300,000 number. So
I think it's in good faith, though.
no,
more than
I'm
anything.
just saying, so that number again is just saying this is how large we can go. I'm not saying this is my recommendation. I'm making the board being informed that the state is allowing this adjustment for this year. So when I hear back from the board on things that they do want us to look at, or maybe you don't want to look at any of this and you only want to meet your contractual obligations.
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry.
I have two questions. So one is, there were some other items, like in terms of new staff that was discussed in the small committee meetings that aren't on these slides. Is that because they're no longer on the table, or just because you didn't include them?
So in the first slide, we have new staff, and so some of the new staff that we talked about, again, nothing's permanent, but when we talked about teaching staff, it was a music teacher, general ed teacher, an ELO.
It's two general ed teachers, an ESL teacher and a music teacher. But again, that's, while we go through the process of refining the budget, we'll determine what positions stay and which don't.
I was specifically wondering about the increased staff in IT and the communications specialist.
So the increased staff in the IT department was balanced within that budget. So it actually was not an increase to our budget. It doesn't add anything. That was done by me reducing in other lines in order to fulfill that obligation. Same thing with the communications.
Okay, that's good to know. And the second thing is, will we get more detail on Wednesday about what these items involve? So for example, expand mental health in middle and high school, how will it be expanded specifically at the middle school level and the high
So
school?
this was just an idea that came up in one of the budget committees about maybe doubling the services, maybe offering a Cure Plus model and an Effective School Solutions model in the middle and high school levels. So that number is taken based on what we're currently paying and saying, well, if we doubled it.
I see.
Yeah, so it can be any version of that. Maybe we don't need to double what we're doing currently.
I see. Thank you.
Aaron?
I think it's fair to say that we would love to have it all, right? But that maybe I'd be most comfortable with saying none until we get all of our information, aid, etc., and then say, oh, well, we could go with this or we could go with that. That would be my comfort level.
Okay.
Jeff and then
Okay. I agree, Mary, with the sentiment totally. But maybe if we're going to be cutting things that, just say that list was included, if we were going to be subtracting things, I'm looking at things like upgrading security cameras and more security greeters and some money for a safety specialist. I'm looking at mental health in the middle school and the high school, and I think all those safety things are connected. That's all part of the same puzzle.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to look at other things that because we said in the beginning priorities, maybe those are a bigger priority than some of the things that we typically have had in our budget before, and maybe we need to go back into things so we can have those things and replace one for another if those in fact are our priority. And this,
Yeah, so
just-
that, I mean,
just
so
a
that
thought.
list is kind of based on the priorities that we've been hearing this year, and not just the budget committee, all year. You know, mental health, and of course now security has come to the forefront. So that's kind of why that list is there, and of course technology. We could put STEAM and STEM. I mean, we could have
Right.
probably added everything to the list. And the purpose of that list really is, besides just the bare bones, because the state's allowing this adjustment, is there anything in particular that you want to see on Wednesday when I have all that information and I can present back to the board? Here's the bare bones, here's the full Monty, and here's a in-between, so that I can get an idea of what the board is comfortable with me doing. But I think the key point is there are major contractual obligations. Like 76% are contractual obligations. That's a $2.8 million cost that we're contractually obligated to fulfill. Because again, it's a people-driven business. I mean, we're number 19 in Spark test scores and all those great things that Nick said before. Truly because of the people. I mean, so.
Emily.
Another question, I'm trying to reconcile the information on slide 6 with the information on slide 8. So the slide 6, you can go to slide 6 on the screen. Thanks, yeah. So there's 650,000 in mental health and 320 for the special threes. That's for the special threes in the elementary schools, in the 7 elementary schools.
This is total increase in all of the security from 17-18 to 18-19. So for instance, in 17-18 was the first year that we introduced the special threes into the middle school. 17-18 was the first year we introduced mental health into the schools. So this is us keeping our obligation and expanding those special threes into the elementary schools. So that's the full cost of
all special threes.
Exactly.
And the 653 reflects the total cost of
all
doubling
of the mental health. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And this is on top of that, exactly. So this is if we wanted more security and more mental health.
Wait, so I'm not understanding. So this is what the slide 6 is what we're currently paying?
This is what
just to maintain.
This is what we know about the budget right now.
That
right,
just to
Is it
maintain.
just
just to
maintaining or?
maintain, this is what we're looking at.
To maintain.
So we're spending the 653 is to maintain the mental health we have in the elementary and middle school today.
Yes.
And the 320 is to maintain the special threes that we have in the middle schools today.
And adding the elementaries.
Which may
I heard him. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Why am I still? I'm just trying to get, like,
No, out there now.
so mental health, the 653 is what we spend today. It's just to make, so like, we're not cutting mental health services.
This is adding the mental health at the high school.
That's
So
in addition.
it's what
So-
we're adding and we're expanding to the high school.
I think the confusion, Brooke, is what's that last page then? That's adding even more?
This is if you wanted to take advantage of the
That's what we got.
full
That's what we got.
adjustment. If you wanted to take advantage of what the state is saying, you can adjust, you can grow your budget, you can grow your tax levy by this. These are additional items, so this is additional mental health.
Then I'm gonna go back to what I originally said, that I would like to not consider them
But these
until.
things that we're gonna discuss, the
These
figures
are
on
things
slide.
for, these are things for discussion, additional items for discussion.
But the slide 6, you've already expanded the special threes. That's our, we're not talking about that.
The expansion of the special trees into the elementary is in the budget. 6 is in the budget, 8 is not.
Can I say something? We haven't even talked to the town about that.
I know, but we did agree to put it in the budget and then talk to the town. And if it all works out, we have it ready to go. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't. I really did want to talk to the town first. I was not kind of expecting some of this, but, okay, it's here. Maybe.
I just wasn't clear when we as a board voted on that.
We didn't vote on anything, we discussed it.
This is still all discussion.
So we could discuss that on Wednesday.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, yeah. no.
going to discuss
Wait,
it.
wait, I'm talking.
Sorry.
Nothing's in concrete. So we're going to go deeper into this and have a discussion, I wouldn't say line by line, but on particular items. This is not, here's the budget, we're voting on it. This is discussions we've had in the various mini-meetings where Brooke and Ernie seem to have gotten the impression that this is what we would like to do. Now, we may change our minds because some of the meetings only had 3 people. And we say, oh, that sounds good, let's do that. But we still have to run it by the rest of the board. So it's not in concrete, so don't think that, it's a done deal. It's not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
On the reduction page, my name is Suzanne Main, or Sue Main, as most of you know me. I'm a Fairlawn resident, and I'm also a paraprofessional in Edison.
And also
My
teacher.
question comes to substitutes. It says you've done reductions. What do you mean by that?
So when we went with Source for Teachers, we experienced a savings.
You received a savings from Source for Teachers.
Yes.
So, for instance, you're paying less than you
We're
were
paying less than we
before.
were paying, exactly.
Okay. Is there any chance that we would actually entertain someone else than Source for Teachers? And the reason I bring this up is because, and I know there are other paraprofessionals in the building as well as teachers, sometimes the teachers do not take the
Paraprofessional jobs?
do not take paraprofessional jobs or teacher jobs. So we're left without a teacher or a paraprofessional in the building. Or, and I'm not going to say this for the whole group of people, but some of the people that come in should not be subbing. So maybe they need to take a better view of who they are hiring.
I can certainly
Teachers usually
talk
get
about
to
it. My understanding is that it is actually the Fairlawn substitute pool
Okay.
went into the Search for Teachers pool, and I do know that filling is, so Edison is special education.
Right.
And I do know that across all districts, those positions are generally harder to fill for substitutes. So perhaps that could be something we can talk, Lisa.
I think I need to add that no matter where the substitutes are generated from,
Right.
you may experience this issue.
Okay.
because I've been doing it for 23 years.
Yes,
This
I know
has
you
been
have.
the issue.
Yes,
And-
because they do come from other places besides Fairlawn, and I can speak for
Absolutely.
several people who are here today. And some of the people that come are not professional, do not do their jobs, therefore the paraprofessionals
And there
come
is a
in.
mechanism when we
and-
remove them, exactly.
Okay,
Right, I was gonna say that, there is
There's
a mechanism to
I'll
say
remove
if the
them quite often.
okay.
the substitute is not up to snuff, they don't come back.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any questions for Brooke?
Brooke, you may want to just summarize. So we have two more meetings
Oh,
about
I
the
didn't-
budget. Can you just announce the dates?
Wait, there was another question.
Sorry.
Somebody said, yes. Just state your name, please.
Anne Marie Cobell. I just had a question about like with the way things are right now with security and all that. Do you think like the state would start like giving funds to help schools get better?
I'm hoping that that's something that we see. I know in my professional organization, we have had so many email correspondences going back and forth about what do you have in your district, what are you doing, how do you have this, talking about can we petition the state to have grants or have specifically for the security upgrades. What the state does do generally is what you've seen tonight, where they say, hey, we acknowledge that you are going to get hit with a huge 15% or $1.4 million increase on your health benefits. We're going to help you out. We're going to help you out by letting you grow your tax levy. And of course, that's not a popular solution to an issue that's a real issue. We do participate. So one of the reasons that I did all that reallocation and created specific security lines, and we're looking in the business office at capturing costs for security that might not be as apparent. So all of the shade that we have for lockdowns, I want to charge that off now to the security line. Some of the things that we considered regular, repairs and maintenance, the red keys that everybody gets to the lockdown keys. I want to charge it to security. We applied for a safety grant, there's the motion on this agenda to allow us to supply for the safety grant, which of course it's only $16,000, but for us that is upgrading a couple of security cameras or upgrading SWIFT cards. So I can't speak for what the state's going to do, but it's something that Pat and I and everybody else in the business office are going to be actively looking for amongst our organization and having that conversation with our colleagues to say, what can we do to help? If we were in a K-8 district with a $6 million budget, $100,000 for a police officer could really, blow your budget, so.
Brooke, just to piggyback on that, and what is the state going to do? Emily actually had a conversation with Senator Bob Gordon, who's interested in talking to us. I don't know if that means there's going to be any money there, but it's nice that he's interested, he'd be willing to talk to us. And, for the next few months, we're going to be looking into this whole security thing. Is there going to be more money? What are we going to do? We're going to talk to the chief of police. We're going to talk to the borough council, maybe go down to the county level. But there is some interest, I know, from Senator Gordon. And we'll let you know where that goes. Mike, you want to say something?
Two things. First of all, Brooke hit it right on the head. This has happened to us many, many, many times in the past, since I've actually been on the board, or since the 2% cap came in. The state government has been very, very, very nice to say, yeah, you can increase your budget and you can increase the taxes more than 2%, but they don't have the solution. They don't give us the money to do that. So thank you, Governor. Thank you, governors, all, Governor Christie and everything else. At the Bergen County School Boards meeting, which is at the end of the month, our legislators are going to be there to listen to all the school boards of the county, Bergen and Passaic, and hopefully they'll listen to us and they'll hear us say, you're talking a lot about security, you're talking a lot about these issues. Put your money where your mouth is kind of deal. If you think it's such a priority, we do too, but you need to help us out. So
To summarize, I'm going to meet with the board again on the 21st, 7:30. to give them options on the budget with all of the information that I.
That'll be a public meeting, everybody's
That'll be a
invited.
public meeting. And we'll have a better picture of what the budget's gonna look like. So again, this was just an overview. This is what the state is saying. This is how large you can grow your budget. And there was a couple of things I just wanted to point out about, there's clearly a correlation between the rather large health benefits increase and the health benefits adjustment that the state is basically allowing us to grow by.
Okay, and the 21st, was there another date after that? Do we have a date
And
picked?
then Monday the 26th is the final date that we can approve a budget. So I'm hoping after we meet on the 21st, I will have clear direction that the budget that I present on Monday the 26th is the budget that the board will vote on, that I can send down to the county for approval.
Okay, all right, thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Brooke.
Oh, Dave.
Sorry, just a question. So, just to read the stuff on page 6, is that stuff that the board has already discussed, especially point 3 and 4? I just was a little confused with that.
No,
Does that mean that you're definitely
Yeah.
having special 3 officers in each of the elementary?
No.
Okay.
No. The money for them is in the budget. The money for them is in the budget, is, if we go that way. So, the things you see here, the money's in the budget. Something may get taken out yet, but so, based on our previous conversations, this is what Brooke put into the budget.
It
So,
also
So I thought that was page 8 was based on, from what we
That's-
know, it sounds like it's something that's a done deal already.
No.
That's all I just.
no, it's been discussed that we would like to see it, but doesn't mean it's gonna
Page 8
stay.
is the wish list.
Is the wish.
Page 6 is what we know. I'm just,
Page 8 was additional items that came up in discussion
A wish list.
that meet the wish list of beyond what our base budget would be.
but this is stuff that's in the budget.
This is stuff that is in the budget that I'm holding a place for. So,
But it may go.
But it may
Some
go
of it
out.
may not stay.
Might
It
leave.
may go out of the
but,
budget.
and some of this might not be like apparent, but, you know, there's money for the traffic officer that we have at Mills that we put in. That's added there, the special 3 officers, it's the 2 in the middle school.
Okay, I just
Plus-
want to say, my view is, when you're including it with something that's not gonna change, like health benefits and salary settlements, seems to me that it's more of a, this is happening, as opposed to, this is what we.
I can see where you get that from, yeah, but that's not necessarily the case. Ron?
Brooke, you just want to explain to everybody what the weighted enrollment adjustment is?
Yeah.
So some people might not understand what that is.
Sure, so the weighted enrollment adjustment is something we have this year as well as last year. So what it is when the software from the state finally opens up, what they do is they take a weighted enrollment based on all of our ASSA reports. And what they say is that your tax levy is below where it should be based on the number of students that you have in your district and the number of students that we're projecting in this next budget year. So the way a weighted enrollment adjustment works is it's actually a pre-budget adjustment. So it takes, what was last year's tax levy? It was $86 million. We get 2%. Okay, so $1.6 million is our tax levy we can grow. But the state says last year's tax levy was $86 million, but it really should have been an additional $88 million, and the 2% goes on top of that. So that's what the weighted enrollment is. So last year, when we were having the conversation about soft borders, and before we knew we were gonna do a referendum and all this conversation, we took advantage of that weighted enrollment adjustment last year. And the way the taxes work is we're on a school year, whereas the town is on a calendar year. So there's always that half of the year behind where it hits. So this we took last year, the other half we know we have to pay for this year.
Does the budget project the additional tax revenue from new developments that are likely to be sold?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't, it's not that intuitive, and it's always kind of behind because it's waiting for a combination of my final audit, which is due in December. It's waiting for the state and the town's final audit so that they can do a certification as tax levy. And then there's certain things that I can physically enter and other things that are locked down at the state. Like for instance, the weighted enrollment. I can't enter what the enrollment's gonna be, that comes directly from the state.
And you don't know what the assessed value is gonna be on any of those home. I mean, you have assessed value now as vacant land, but you have no idea, because it could take 3 years to build, so it's gonna change,
Yeah,
and you don't have any control over
that
it.
valuation won't be put on the town's books until, we won't see that until the town actually puts it on their books.
Right. Okay, all right, I think that's it, right? Okay, thank you, Brooke. There's more to come on the budget, so this is not the be-all and end-all. Is there anything else? Oh, you want to give a shout out about the high school principal again? Where are we at? Okay. Ernie just wants to give everybody a quick update on the high school principal search.
So next week on Thursday,
Thursday, the 22nd.
we will have community members involved. We want to explain the involvement part, who's involved, what kind of people.
Yes, there's actually a policy that dictates how this committee is comprised, and what it includes is PTA, PTO officers, representatives from the high school, from the middle school, one PLAY's president, Friends of Music, somebody from that organization, or parents, principals, subject supervisors, and teachers within the district. So there's probably about 14 to 16 people on the committee.
Do they know about, have the committee members been chosen?
Yes.
Okay, and they all know? Okay, well, this is information for the public. All right, good.
How many finalists?
They are interviewing two.
Interviewing 2 people.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to know, Mel?
Teachers on the committee.
Okay. Oh, Jim.
How are the teachers chosen?
The teachers can be chosen by by central office or in conjunction with the association.
Was the association allowed to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Dawn's
Okay.
involved.
Okay.
All right. All right, so I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on the high school principal search. That's, you got superintendent, referendum, high school principal. Hey, we're really moving now.
And bears oh my.
Yeah. Okay, let's do some action items at 8:30. G1 approval of minutes, G2 approval of policies. I have a motion for G1 and G2, please.
So moved.
Board members, questions? What?
On the first page, what are in this?
Page 3.
Oh. Sorry.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Board members, G1 and G2? Audience members, G1 and G2? Dave?
David Trotter, what's the school district security change? Is that something you can summarize in 50 words or less?
Lisa?
It's 7441.
7440. You remember?
I don't know.
This policy requires us, we have to have a policy that enables us to share information with the police that is transmitted over simulcasted video. So we currently have that in some of our buildings. So what that means is that we can project an image from here that goes straight to the police headquarters
In real time.
in real time.
Okay.
Understand that?
I just have the policies if you want to visit, I
Dave.
can never show you.
Do you understand it?
Well, I didn't know what the change was, but, yeah.
Actually,
It's not,
it might be a new one.
it's not really a change.
It says revised.
It's one is a revised and the other one's it's mandatory, so.
We already had it, we just had to revise
Yeah,
it to keep up with the
We had to
code.
revise it to keep up with the code. And again, like Dr. Blessa said, we have it, but we can't tell you where there are things can be. We're not-
I don't think he wants to.
Well, I'm just letting you know, in case they ask. We don't even know.
Okay, anybody else? No? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barbarullo?
Yes.
Mrs. Frankel?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Stendhal?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
And Mr. Banta?
Yes.
Next question. Did we, at one time, referring to page 5, didn't we once say that we wanted to see the comparisons, like what it was either the month before or the year before, so we can look at the comparisons of the enrollments, so it's easier for board members to gauge the growth and like watch it happen.
We used to have that.
Page 5.
I remember,
We had a conversation about that.
I remember having a
and
conversation.
The conversation was that we were not gonna do that because people were getting confused tracing the month to month. So what is important is that when we're counting school students, if we do month to month, that can be confusing. If we look at our starting point, which is always what's called the ASSA, the Application for State School Aid, that happens in October, then you'll be able to know what your starting point is. I mean, if we wanted to switch it back, we can do that. That's not a difficult thing to do, but there was a lot of confusion about it, with also people saying, well, why do we need a month to month? So administratively, it's not a burden to do it one way or the other. It streamlines the form. We also looked at what other schools are doing, and most will present it the way that we present it here. How many do we have on a grade level? But if there, if we can also talk in committee, if you want us to go back to the other way, that's, I don't have any objection to that.
Well, how does the board feel? They like this format or the old format?
I like seeing the changes.
Yeah, me too.
How about just another column that just says the
Like a plus
You
5.
can put a plus or a minus.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Okay, that'll work. All right. Okay. Okay. S1, retirement resolutions. S2, no items. S3, we're going to hold. S4, other business. Got to have a motion for S1 through S4, holding S3.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, resolution regarding the retirement of Isabel Stern. Elise, would you read that?
Whereas Isabel Stern has dedicated herself to the Fairlawn School District as a teacher of English as a second language since 1990, displaying an unselfish commitment to our children, exemplifying the ideals of professionalism and the standard of excellence, has requested retirement at the end of the day on June 30th, 2018. And whereas the Fairlawn School District Board of Education, together with its citizens, wishes to acknowledge exemplary service that Isabel Stern has provided to our children, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairlawn School District Board of Education does hereby extend its appreciation and gratitude to Isabel Stern in recognition of her exemplary service to our school district, and be it further resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes and dispatch a copy thereof to Mrs. Isabel Stern.
Thank you. Emily, would you read B?
Sure, resolution regarding the retirement of Susan Gordon. Whereas Susan Gordon has dedicated herself to the Fairlawn School District as a music teacher since 1999, displaying an unselfish commitment to our children, exemplifying the ideals of professionalism and the standard of excellence, has requested retirement at the end of the day on June 30th, 2018. And whereas the Fairlawn School District Board of Education, together with its citizens, wishes to acknowledge exemplary service that Susan Gordon has provided to our children, and now therefore be it resolved that the Fairlawn School District Board of Education does hereby extend its appreciation and gratitude to Susan Gordon in recognition of her exemplary service to our school district, and be it further resolved that the Fairlawn Board of Education be directed to spread this resolution in full upon the minutes and dispatch a copy thereof to Mrs. Susan Gordon.
Thank you. Mary?
Yes, you know me.
Yes, I know you.
So I've worked with both of these women and know them and admire their dedication and their long service to the school district. So I certainly wish them a wonderful retirement. And again, it's our ELL teachers and our music teachers. All, they contribute to wonderful programs that we have here in our district.
Thank you, Mary. Jeff?
Mrs. Gordon, I loved watching her direct. I loved watching her with the kids. It was such a joy. I know you're giggling over there. You've seen it too. It was just, for anyone who's gotten to witness that, it was really such a joy. So obvious that she loved her work and she loved working with those kids. And definitely, I'm sure we have a wonderful person coming in who will have those same strengths, but at the same time, definitely a loss for Fairlawn schools and the children in the music department at those schools. Wherever you are, Mrs. Gordon, I hope you are just can have a wonderful retirement and you keep this having those wonderful smiling moments, because a lot of us have had some good smiles with you. Congratulations.
Isabel Stern, 1990, so she has to be one of the first ESL teachers, because that wasn't a big thing, really. So she, yeah, and how many do we have now?
I think you have 9,
Yeah.
10 full-time.
Yeah, I remember we had 1 or 2 or 3 when I got on the board, and she was one of the first, so she blazed the path. Any other board members?
Just for S4, but I don't want to butt in on the retirement thing.
Okay, let me see, if anybody else has said anything about the retirements? Dawn?
Dawn Ebner, I've met Sue before and just had some interaction with Sue, but Isabel Stern, ESL and now ELL teacher at the high school, and I have worked with her for many years. She is so helpful to her kids. She reaches out to all the staff members for any assistance that her students need with anything. You know, right now I'm in health right now, so and I have 3 of her students in my class, and constant communication, interaction between herself and myself in helping these students to succeed. And like I said, specifically for health, but for whatever subject, I've always seen her, you know, helping out, and so she will be sorely missed at the high school. So just want to say that. Congratulations, though, at the same time.
Thank you, Dawn. Jim?
I just want to echo what Dawn said. Isabel Stern, you know, in high school, most of our EL students, they're new to the country, and she takes these kids. She's an outstanding teacher, which is like a mother to them. As Dawn said, she's all over the building talking to everybody she can. She helps these kids have their first experience in this country with such kindness and understanding. And she's so helpful, not just to the kids, but to their entire families. She's going to be sorely missed at the high school. She is really our, she's the mother for those kids at the high school.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else on the retirements? Elise?
I just wanted to say about the, Mrs. Stern, a few years ago, the valedictorian was an ESL student. And just a
Right.
program.
Yeah.
You know how excellent the program really is.
She didn't speak a word of English when she came.
That's right. In first or second grade, she didn't speak English. And then she spoke so eloquently at the graduation.
It's like such an amazing.
All right. Okay, Jeff, you want to see something about
I have a
school?
question. Is that going to be a half day or a full day? The 6th.
It's a full day.
It's going to be a full day? Any considerations to making that a half day? Because we're going to imagine that a lot of people are going to be there and drag teachers in for a full day.
It's a board decision. If it's a half day, you might get even fewer people there.
I'm just saying it just.
But before,
dragging
you know,
people
we
in
need
for a
to
full
have
day,
the minimum 4
give them a half
hours.
day. No traction on that, Frank?
Friday of the vacation.
No, it doesn't look like it.
Come on, people.
I would do it.
Yeah? All right, I got 1.
You got 2.
I got 2. I need 2 more.
You
I
want to
need
get a
1
half
more.
day?
Come
All right,
on.
so what would a half day consist of, just so, I'm pretty sure, but I know it's 4 hours, but walk me through it. Elementary school comes in at 8:35, and they leave at 12:35? 12:45.
Wait, Jeff, why do you want a half day?
Because I think that the attendance is going to be very low. I do.
But for parents who work, it might be a big difference to have a full day versus a half day.
Well, I'm thinking of the faculty who's going to be dragging in for like maybe half or 2/3 of a class, and you can't do anything new. You're not giving any tests or quizzes. You're not going to do anything that's accessible that day. So many students absent. You don't need a full day to do a little bit.
There are a number of factors to consider. I think, Emily, your point about the impact on the parents should be taken into consideration. Whenever we have a half day, that is an issue with making arrangements for childcare and so on and so forth. It also gives a message sometimes, not a message from us, but sometimes people perceive that that's a day that's not to be taken seriously. We have to have 180 days. Our calendar for this year says we're going to take it from that week. So although it is a board decision, and my recommendation would be that it be a regular day, And I do think that the childcare piece is going to be difficult. I mean, every time we have a delayed opening, we haven't had any early dismissals, but that parents need to scramble. So just another factor to consider.
And we're only,
we're
we're less than 3 weeks out on it too, so.
Well, I would say 3 weeks is time for a lot of parents to get to get that together. They're expecting already to have the day off, so I guess there's childcare in place to begin with that week, because originally the week is off. And again, the teachers, while there could be some remediation going on, but there's nothing accessible that's going to be going on those days. Again, I'm in the classroom, I know what these days are like.
Mike?
And,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
okay, I'm done.
Mike?
Said my piece.
I'm gonna flip-flop. There's a reason I'm gonna flip-flop. The teachers in the audience are saying that they think it should be a full day. And I'm going to say, well, wait a second, if the teachers want it to be a full day, and the parents, and in light of, you know, thinking about the parents, that I'm going to go with that. So admittedly, at first glance, I said one thing. So before I get called a flip-flopper, I want to say that I think it should be a full day.
And I'll go back to full day for 2 reasons, because the teachers want a full day and because the superintendent recommended it, and I'd like to support the superintendent's recommendations. So I'm back to a full day.
Okay, it's a full day.
We don't know that the teachers really want that.
They do, they said they
Okay,
wanted
have roll call, please.
A couple teachers said that.
Mr. Klein?
I got a no for S4, yes on everything else.
How about
Ms.
S4B?
S4B, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with the food service plan.
Okay, I thought.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mr. Banta?
Yes. E1, attendance at conference, conventions, workshops. E2, approval of extracurricular trips. E3, approval of student, teachers, interns, practicums, field observation placement. E4, approval of bedside home instruction. E5 and 6, E7, 8, 9, 10, no items. Have a motion on.
Sorry about that.
I thought
You guys are
Well,
very,
you still have your head on, so.
E1 to E10.
Sorry about that.
So moved.
Second.
You want me to close the window?
All right, board members, any questions on any of the comments on the E items?
no, he's pretty good.
Or, public, E1 to E10, questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mr. Banta?
Yes. P1, approval of appointments. P2, approval of resignations, retirements. P3, approval of leave of absence, amendment of leave of absence, rescission of leave. P4, change of personnel assignment status. P5, additional remuneration. P6, other business. Oh, that's no items, okay. P1 through P6, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Board members, questions, comments? Mike?
Shouldn't B say ratification of that or something?
B? What?
Because there was already a choreographer and a piano player, and I'd just like to know why this is
Mike, which one are you talking
coming
about?
to, B, I'm sorry, P1B.
P1, okay, thank you.
I'd like to know why we weren't asked about this earlier, and I just questioned from middle school play, and the middle school plays I hear were absolutely fantastic, so I'm not anything against any middle school plays before someone says that. I'm questioning $1,200 for a piano player for a middle school play when you could have a recording.
A what?
A
recording
for a middle school play. That's just my opinion.
I don't know who had their hand up first.
I don't care, Ron. We're gonna say the same thing.
Ron, go ahead.
I'll be honest with you, I was there, recording would have made a big difference. That orchestra that was there at the TJ play was phenomenal. They really were. And sometimes, and I understand where you're coming from, but sometimes You need the live person.
So it should have been brought to us before.
Yes, it should have, but they're paying it out of their own student account too, so. It should have been brought to us for, but it might have been something at the last minute, but there was a full orchestra there, and, at the Memorial School play there wasn't, and not criticizing, they both plays were excellent, I went to both this weekend. But I'm just saying, from experience, having the real thing sometimes is a lot better than having a recording, so. I think it was definitely worth it.
I'm just gonna say, we do ask for this ahead of time, but sometimes it just doesn't come through, and we are waiting for fingerprints and such before it's board approved, so sometimes it takes a while.
Jeff?
I'm just gonna, Ron said it, so we're good.
Cindy?
Ron, what did you say, the funds came out of what?
The student activities.
It comes out of the student activities fund?
It says that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Any other board members? Members of the public? Any questions, comments? Yes, Dawn.
I have,
If you just state your name, please.
Dawn Ebner.
Thank you.
Two questions. P4, B. Just wondering why there's a change in step for
Because,
somebody to hear with that.
because Rhea actually was here last year, and we had to let her go, so she got credit for the year when she was put on. She was put on mistakenly the first time. She should have been put on step 2, because this is her second year.
Oh, okay, so it's an adjustment. And then the second question is, for, it's P5, C.
What number?
3 and 4. It says $110 per session. Is there any designated time allotment for that session? How long those sessions are? Is it, you know, is it a day? Is it?
It's a community school.
Yeah, no.
It's a community school offering. You'll see it on my motion on page 26. It's the after-school planetarium program.
Right.
I don't know the time. I think it's, what is it, just the evening show? It's gonna be like an evening show.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think, Donna. Is that the one they're doing like 2 or 3 different, they do like 1 at 3 and 1 at 5 and 1 at 6:30 or something like that? Is that what that is?
It's a brand new program, so they're gonna offer it and see if people sign up for it. If they sign up for it, then the program will run.
I guess I'm just wondering, like, 1 and 2, it has the after-school space program.
Yes.
$590 for the entire program, and then for 3 and 4, it says $110 per session. So I understand what you're saying, like, it might be, if the session opens, then we're gonna pay them if they don't run the session, obviously that's gonna be different, but like, what's an entire program versus per session? Is
I
the
can
entire
find out
program 5 sessions, or is that like, how's that?
I can find out and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Lisa and then Brooke will work it out and
Okay.
let you know.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else in the audience? No? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
And Mr. Banta?
Yes. SE1, no items. SE2, approval of bedside home instruction for classified students for 17-18 school year. SE3, approval of required related services for classified students for 17-18 school year. S4, other business. Motion for S1 through S4?
So moved.
SE, I'm sorry. SE.
Second.
Board members, questions, comments? Audience members, questions, comments? None? Roll call, please.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Ms. Franco?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Banta?
Yes. F1, approval of acceptance of gifts grant fund. F2, no items. F3, approval of bills payroll. F4, approval of bills payable. F5, approval of board secretary report. F6, approval of board treasury report. F7, approval of transfers. F8, no items. F9, approval of contracts, consortiums, cooperatives. F10, no items. F11, other business. Motion for F1 to F11?
So moved.
Second.
Board members, questions, comments on F1? Ron?
F9B, what are we getting in? I apologize for not calling you today.
F9B is a motion we're putting on because we are going out for RFP for a new food service management company. So this is a required motion that lets us actually put together the RFP and then advertise it.
So we're not signing with anybody yet, we're
No,
just going
this is,
out.
exactly,
And
this
then
is
you'll
just saying
present-
that we want to go into a
Okay,
contract.
and then you'll present to us the options, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Mary?
F1, thanking the Mills PTA for funding the class trip. PTAs, yay.
Any other board members? Audience members? David?
Yeah, David Trotter. I have a question about F11C, the before and after care rates. Do you know if this reflects another increase?
This does have an increase.
I mean, again, we've discussed it in prior years. It's really, really expensive, and it's the same if you leave your kid there for a half hour or 3 hours. And we've always feel good about how good money situation we're in here. I was wondering if you guys would consider maybe giving the parents a break there, because to pay $500 a month, sometimes you might use it for a half hour in the morning and a half hour in the afternoon. That's crazy. If you're using it for 3 hours in the afternoon, an hour and a half in the morning, that's one thing. But there used to be a prorated halfway, and you did away with that, and now you're raising it again for the second straight year after a huge increase. After there was a change in community school. I just think it would be great if the board would consider maybe giving the parents a break somewhere on this.
I just want to clarify about the prorated. That was never approved by the board. That was an employee acting on his own.
That
and
doesn't
give.
really reflect well on the board, the fact
No,
that
it doesn't.
it's gone on for years and it happened, so that's really not a point for or against.
But it is a point that, we never agreed to that. Somebody took it on himself to do it, and we corrected that last year or the year before.
Yeah, I know that did a huge increase after that.
I don't know. I don't think it was that huge, but I don't know the percentage.
For someone who has kids in the district and deals with, I've used before and after care up until this year. I'm looking around, there's nobody right now using it. I just want to say, and if you want to talk to parents, if you want to hold them, it's very expensive. And it was a huge
I think
increase.
it's competitive. I think it's competitive with other preschool, other before and after care programs. So, we can disagree with that. At this point, how much is the increase, do you know?
Yeah, Gene, when was the last time you were at a before and after care program and saw how much of a free-for-all it is? In terms of what they do and being competitive compared to the fact. You want to look at it versus other
You're talking about,
You want to talk about the quality in terms of competitive? We can talk about
I'm talking about the price. I'm talking about the price.
Okay, but you want to do price versus services? Because that's probably not a discussion you want to get into. It's not going to look good for the board either.
Okay, thank you. Emily?
David, I really appreciate you bringing that up. I'm not sure if it's, maybe the timing is a little late to do anything about this for this year, but I do want to recommend maybe to the administration, especially as we think about our long-term strategic plan, that this is a comment that's come up repeatedly, not just from David now, but from other parents. And I think as a board, we can ask the administration to come up with an analysis of whether that's feasible to do some kind of prorated arrangement for the aftercare and before care for.
I can just answer that. One of the reasons that it's not really feasible is because we still need to staff. And I can't staff somebody for 1 hour. And also, based on what you're saying before, people who did have prorated oftentimes took advantage of that and did come in later than what they were supposed to. So, we need to staff it based on how many people for 4 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is. So what we're paying for is staff. The staff does get a raise every year.
So you're saying this is a not-profit, this is a not-for-profit, there's no revenue coming out of this? This is all just paying for staff?
This goes back to reducing taxpayer costs.
It runs into black.
Yeah.
It does run into black. I'm not going to say that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Two things. I'd like to see what it would look like. I understand the idea of having to hire the employees and you have to have a fixed cost because that's just the way it works. But maybe there are other options that the community school could look at. For example, for people who only use it for a short amount of time can only pay for that short amount of time. So we know that we need more staff for the first hour as compared to the second hour. And when parents sign kids in and out, they could pay an extra fee if they go over. I don't know, just maybe there's something to do there, but that's really not my concern. I'm sorry, Dave. My concern is the use of free-for-all. We are, as board members, are responsible here, and we need to protect those kids. And if there's not enough employees to take care of those kids, it's not fair to the employees either. So if, again, this is not a healthy environment for an after-school program that is too unstructured. Listen, I got kids need to run around and play after school. It's great, they should, but I'm concerned about that, and I want to be vocal about that, that if their parents, and I'm just looking at the body language of the audience, that it's possibly true, that's just not a good thing. There should be structure there, and kids should be in a safe, controlled environment. So I'm gonna vote against this until I know that it's not a free-for-all and that kids are being taken care of properly. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying from what I'm gathering, it's alarming to hear that.
Mark?
And it's not the first time I've heard
Since
it.
we have such discussion on this, can we table it for this month?
I know it.
Bring it to discussion with us as well as the head of the community school, and then discuss it thoroughly.
You want to talk about it in the community school, or you want to
I want the community school director to talk with us regarding this. Maybe he can, as Jeff said, restructure the entire program so that it would be more cost effective for the parents, and then vote on it next month. Or is it necessary to vote on it right now?
No.
I'm just gonna add it, because we're gonna open registration up for next year, and we can hold it maybe till the next April meeting, or maybe on Monday the 26th, when we do the budget, maybe we can add that then, if I can get more information from the director and,
Elise?
I was just gonna say that the reason the change was made was because it wasn't being offered to everyone. It wasn't so much that it was problematic, but it was not across the board. It was friends of the whoever was in control. You know what I mean? It wasn't blanket. It wasn't like this is, if you stay for an hour, if you stay for 2 hours, you stay for 3 hours. I'm gonna agree with maybe the restructuring or re-looking into or opening up, whatever dialogue would have to go on to do that. I don't hesitate to vote for this because I know that changes could always be made, and if you need this to go through in order to, start the ball rolling, I don't have a problem putting it through this way and then working on whatever the changes would be, like holding back the distribution of, some of the, paraphernalia, pamphlets or whatever, until, either the changes are discussed or made or addressed. Because in the very beginning, you could drop a kid off, for an hour, and there were like the scale was different. So I don't know, everything changes, right? And I get it, if you're gonna have 20 kids and you need one person for 20 kids, and at the 21st kid you need a second person, you have to know if they're there for 3 hours or 2 hours. I mean,
yeah, it's very difficult to manage that while
right.
watching
And
children with like the
to
limited
structure
staff.
that,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Mike?
Do you know what the percentage increase was?
I don't have it on me right now, but I can certainly let you know.
I think there's two things in play here. One thing in play is what's going on there, and I think I agree with Jeff, by the body language of people in the audience, I would say that definitely has to be looked at. But at the same time, I know that I see that people are wanting this window to be open, wanting to sign up. So there has to be, a price. Maybe it could be adjusted later, like Elise said. But I think to hold it that long is gonna cause parents more angst because they're not gonna be able to register their kids.
Emily?
I'm also concerned that if we expect an answer by next Wednesday or even next month, it's gonna rush the conversation and foreclose on an opportunity to actually dig deeper and to really understand, like, to understand maybe how other districts structure their before and after care and staff is. So I'd rather.
I mean, I can speak to that. Me and Mike Shansky, the director of community school, have met with several private companies this year to look at different kind of options of how we could restructure the program. There's a lot of private companies that can come in and take over the program, which would be devastating to Fairlawn and to our budget build process, because it would really become like a rental. They would just be renting our facilities basically. Mike does call around other districts to find out what their prices are. Some districts have YMCAs or YWCAs that run their programs. They're all kind of structured pretty similar to what we have. One of the things Mike and I spoke about this year is adding what we're calling leads. So the way we have the camp structured is we have a camp supervisor and camp directors, and we talked about for 18-19, and in the community school piece of the budget, we do want to have leads that are teachers that are going to take over like 3 and 3 of the elementary schools, to have that oversight of supervision. So it's something we've been hearing from people. We are addressing it. We're going to address it in 18-19. We're looking, because the camp structure is very successful. We have a supervisor, and then we have 2 directors that run, and we know that when you divide and conquer, it makes it much more manageable. So we're talking about, it's a huge ground just for somebody to cover. So even if you're supervising the aftercare programs, to go to 6 different elementary schools is pretty tedious, and it's trying to do that. So I hope, everybody should feel better that Mike and I are working together. We've had a lot of conversations this year with other companies to get ideas. We have materials. Paramus just privatized theirs, so what we're trying to do is offer a really great program, a safe program, and we are looking to improve that program this year. I think we're trying to make it better. So those are conversations we've already had, and I do think that, and what we're looking for is having, one of our teachers or who are already there on the property, kind of be. Maybe if they want to do something like that, because that would be more reasonable because of the time that it starts.
So what you're saying is there's sort of some progress towards a little bit more structure and organization in 18-19.
Exactly. So the idea behind the increase, which I believe it's a minimal increase for this year, part of that conversation is about adding these positions.
Ron?
I would like you, I appreciate you doing this research. I'd like to see what other districts are, the structures you're looking at, and the increases. Like, I'd like to see information on this. This is very concerning to me, hearing about it, and I agree with David. Times are tough for parents, man, and I know they gotta do that, but, if we can help them out a little bit, they support our school system all the time. And also, like I said, I see, like Mike said, I see people here that are very active, and when I hear that, who's doing it? Are they doing it? I'm concerned about it. So I want more information about this. I don't think we have to go beyond April. I think we can have a meeting next week or the 26th, and we can talk about it and then make a decision. But I can tell you right now, I'm not going to vote for it tonight.
Can I make a motion to hold this until the next meeting?
Well, all right. Who moved and seconded?
To what?
Mike and Mark.
Okay, Mike and Mark. Are you okay with holding this till April?
I want it till April.
Okay, no, I know, but
Yes.
I have to officially ask you.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna hold, was it 11C?
Somebody else on the side.
Okay.
I wanted to make a motion to hold it.
Okay. So,
I just wanted-
part of this discussion will be, I want to see comparisons of numbers, and if it's gonna be a reduction, I just wanna know what's gonna be. Are we losing 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, whatever it is? I'd like to know the numbers so we have an informed decision. If that's what we want to do, that's fine. All right, so 11C, you'll be held to April. All right, but there was I saw a hand back here. Did you state your name, please?
Grace Palmieri.
Okay.
They did have a, if you picked up your child at 4 o'clock, it was cheaper. However, what was happening is they'd come 4:45, 4:30, and the kids weren't being picked up. Also, there are kids that just show up and aren't registered at all. So you don't really know how many kids are gonna show up on any given day. And I do know, as Brooke said, they're looking into having classes like they do in the camps, like STEM and little classes like that. I know they are looking into that. I know that's what my goal is, to make it more of a structure, but not school.
Right. Okay.
So they are, I know he was working on it. But you never know how many kids are in that gym at one day, and some of the schools are packed. I can tell you that.
Thank you. Josh had his hand up first.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Josh.
Josh Rhines. Just piggybacking off of that, I'd encourage all of you to go to the elementary school aftercares and just see what goes on. My kids went in it for several years. They're not now. They'll probably be going back in a couple months. But some of the stories I've heard from other parents are very disconcerting and very frightening. I know kids who got hurt. Just a lot of stuff. I really think it would benefit all of you to stop by and see it. And then beyond that, I would just ask, Brooke, if you guys are really serious about reforming aftercare and before care, I'd really encourage you to include the parents and to really, have a forum with us and let us tell you what our concerns are financially and otherwise. I think the parents should be part of the process with everything you guys are doing, but especially something like that I think we all have a lot of knowledge about.
Next, good idea, Josh. Joan and then Jeff and then Louise.
I worked in a school program for many, many years, for like 25 years. There's always a teacher in charge, and I really think that's really what you need, to have somebody that is a teacher in charge. I was always there. I had other people underneath me, but I was the teacher in charge, and it works really well because the teacher helps you with homework, and it just works really well. And I think you should consider having someone like that there, like Rick was saying, someone that's in charge and oversees everything that's going on. I think the program will improve a great deal. Even if a teacher right from the school, there might be somebody that would like to do that.
Jeff.
Yeah. Josh and Jonah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think there should be, I think that, just let's say, like, even just after this brief conversation, I think that a lot of good things have come out of it, so I'd like to point that out. Having a teacher there seems like a really great idea, but I wanted to ask you, Mr. Tratner, because you began this conversation, and I understand about money and fully cognizant that likely the people who are footing the bill for those programs and paying more now are probably the same people who voted yes the other night. So I think, again, going to work for people here, the question is, would you pay that same amount, or would you be okay with paying that same amount, or even slightly more, if it were structured programs in terms of my kid is taking this class? So just trying to get some feedback from the public here. If we say, well, this will be strictly a quiet zone homework class in this room, and this will be a STEM class, and this will be a Lego class, would that be something that, in your opinion, I know you don't speak for the public, but would that be something more acceptable? Is that something that you would?
It would certainly give more value to the program, for sure.
Okay.
Right now, a lot of parents don't have options. I mean, that's what's happening.
Okay.
So, and Jeff, there's already additional classes that are offered, like robotics courses and stuff like that. So
I'd like to take that.
There's options to pay for that. It's a little tricky how you get your kids in and out of it, but I think structure is a good idea. I also think at that time the kids probably would benefit from some kind of relaxed time, but putting teachers in there I think would be a big step in the right direction.
Lisa and Emily.
I was just gonna say, the way they used to do the classes was for the whole school. Students wanted to stay after school to take, and they'd have a specific class, like for 4th and 5th graders or whatever, whether it was biology or something that was STEM, some lab science, whatever. And parents paid an extra, like whatever the amount was to have their kid go from aftercare to the class and then back to aftercare, or just stay to go to the class. It wasn't connected to it was through the community school, but not connected to the aftercare. Any student was eligible to go to the class. But it's very disconcerting to me to sit here and hear all of these issues. I thought that we had, a wonderful aftercare program that started with the Kiko and went into the before and after school, having been here at the inception of that. And to hear parents, making these statements and not having never gotten, and I know many parents with young children that use our aftercare and before care. I have family member that worked at before care and aftercare for many years. It's very disconcerting for me to have people come in tonight and saying how terrible the program is in every school. So that has never fallen on my ears before, and to hear this, I'm just kind of disappointed in having not heard about this before, so it could have been not necessarily discussed by me, but at the administrative level could have been taken care of. To have if this has truly been going on as Mr. Tratner is making it sound, then that's upsetting to me.
It's the first time I'm hearing it.
Yeah, and I want to say that I've heard lots of complaints about the price. A lot of complaints about it costs too much money. This is the first time I'm hearing that it's a free-for-all and people being hurt and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit.
I didn't say all of them. I just said some of them.
Okay, no, you didn't say it all, but it's a little disconcerting. You're right that last year when we talked about it and the year before, it was just the price. That's all anybody wanted to talk about. So listen, now that we have these concerns have been brought to our attention, Brooke apparently is already working on some stuff with Mike, so we'll continue to work on it, and if that means we got to get a tip with the teacher in charge, then we'll do that. Emily.
If we're serious about getting parents' input to better understand what the nature of the issues are, because it sounds like there's multiple aspects of it, I just want to ask/state, we might not be able to get it right with just a month. I mean, it's fine to hold it till next month, and maybe we'll move forward with it this year with a plan to do something more, but I think building on some of the work that we did with the referendum, like actually doing surveys of parents to get some kind of temperature of what is important to them or what they're thinking, rather than just the people. I appreciate the voices in this room, but we could, we know who the kids who are in the after and before care programs now. We could easily administer to them a survey. We could do a listening session, like a focus group, to have parents come in like we did for the referendum, which I think yielded some insights that we didn't have before, to really understand better what exactly the community wants to see in these programs, and then to be able to find appropriate models and price it out matched on like that information that we get.
Well, I agree that there's I don't know how many hundreds of kids in a program, and they're all filled to capacity. So we should do that. I agree, but we have to vote on something in April. Otherwise, we can't set the prices, and nobody can register, and then the whole thing falls apart.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want the vote in April to be a vote that the issue is done. Like we're
No, I agree.
Solve the problem.
We have to vote on something, and then agree that there's going to be a course of action that we're going to take, May, June, July, whatever, so that when we reopen in September, we have some kind of a plan in place. I think everybody's on board with that. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Dawn.
Dawn Ebner, F11A. What is that? What is the activity, and is that the board is donating the buses, or is that a cost to the board, or like how is that? Is that a shared service, or what's going on?
Yeah, this is something they do every year. It's a shared service, and what it is they clean up all the garbage around town. So we donate 2 buses, and we work with the DPW. So we donate the buses and the drivers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we pay them and they just transport. So.
That's been like for 5 years there.
No, this is still F1 through F11. In the Twilight Zone. Okay, anybody else on any of these items? I can have a roll call, please, without whatever we took out, F11.
Could I just be clear before? So we're
gonna
holding
hold
that item.
F11C, we're going to hold it for
Thank
next
you.
month.
Okay. Mrs. Franco?
Yes.
Mrs. Wallace?
Yes.
Dr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Quackenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Barbarulo?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg? Mr. Spindell?
Yes.
And Mr. Banta?
Yes. Do you have another addendum? Is that,
We gotta vote again.
oh, that addendum, that's right.
They gotta come out. They gotta
Okay.
go in and come out.
All right, now we're going to open up the floor to members of the public who wish to make comments. Mel hand up first, so Jamel, just state your name.
Mel Dershauer. First, I want to wish Sumaine a happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Also happens to be our educating professional of Edison of the year. Which Cindy mentioned earlier about the anybody caught it.
No, we didn't. Good job, Cindy.
I did. So I have a member of my board who had an awesome idea that Place would like to share with the group. I don't know if you guys have any plans for the outside of Edison. Like the outside.
The front, the yard out front?
Like
Yeah.
the landscaping?
Yeah, like when we dug up everything for the sign or whatever.
Right.
We lost a couple of our
Bushes?
guys.
They do have a plan.
Oh, there is a plan?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think we want to contribute some ideas, so I don't know, like, who I can reach out to about that.
Ron and Brooke.
All right, so I'm gonna have Mrs. Weinstein, who's at home listening, or watching or something.
Hi, Chris.
Just email Brooke and Ron on the.
Brooke and copy Ron, and then they'll look into it. We're always glad to take donations. And then I saw a hand up in the back. Please just state your name, please.
Yes, my name is Larissa Mendez Downs, and I'm a member of Moms Demand Action, and I have 2 kids at the Radburn School. For people who don't know what Moms Demand Action is, a nonpartisan group dedicated to reducing gun violence. It's to gun violence prevention, and as Dr. Pelestis mentioned and other members of the board, I think it's fair to say that gun violence has been on our minds since Parkland, if not before then, because 96 Americans a day are killed by gun violence. And I just wanted to let everybody know that Moms does have a chapter in Bergen County local group, and we are dedicated to reducing gun violence. And I wanted to bring a couple of resources and statistics to the BOE this evening. First, mass shootings are relatively rare in America. And it's important to note that 203 kids have been killed in the United States due to gun violence since the Parkland shooting. And I think it's important to remember that because mass shootings are rare, even though they get a lot, rightly so, they get a lot of the public's attention because they're so horrible. But one, I wanted to say that even though it makes us feel helpless as parents, administrators, teachers, we don't have to be. I think there are a couple of things that we can do to keep our kids, our community safer. One is be informed. One, New Jersey has one of the strongest gun laws in the country, and we have to fight for them because there is legislation in the U.S. Congress right now that would significantly weaken them. And the numbers throughout the country have shown us that the more guns there are in a state, the looser the restrictions, the more likely there is to be a gun death. 2, I wanted to bring, to mention one of Mom's programs, which I really like, really nonpartisan. It's called Be Smart, and it's a free program for parents, grandparents, anyone with a stake in children, and I think that's pretty much everyone because they are our future. And it's about securing guns safely. Mom supports the Second Amendment, but we definitely think that if you own a gun, you should be responsible about it. So this is about, you know, when you're planning a play date, babysitting gigs, teenagers parties, you should know and feel free to ask others how and where their guns are stored. So we do a whole program, it's free, our volunteers do it for free. We only need a space and potentially a PowerPoint AV setup, and we will do that. Be Smart also underscores the fact that out of the 33,000 plus deaths in the country due to gun violence, 2/3 of them are suicides. And so we talk about understanding the effects or seeing the signs that may lead to suicide, especially, you know, we all deal with middle schoolers and high schoolers and know that that's a vulnerable age. And then the other thing is programs like Start with Hello, which is a program that was created in the aftermath of Sandy Hook Promise, and those are also free. They're a nonprofit that brings the materials and the knowledge to schools that choose to implement it. Much like the buddy benches that we have in schools, the Sandy Hook Promise aims to create more inclusive communities so that social isolation is less, so that if there are signs, we can see them. And it has components for not K through 5, it's 2nd through 5, middle schools and high schools. I realize that none of these will prevent all of our problems. Guns outnumber the number of people in the United States, but there are steps that we can take in the right direction. Our youth are leading the way. I think we saw that. Dr. Bless has mentioned that, and the wonderful turnout that Fairlawn High School had. And I also saw those signs from the live stream that some of the kids put out, and it was most moving. And I want them to know, and the community to know, that moms are behind them and that we're with them and we want them safe. So I just wanted to thank you for listening to me, and I have literature too if you'd like to read it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Elise?
I just want to make a comment separately from that. I'm actually aware of your organization, but I just wanted to thank Mrs. Ebner for the letter that you sent. I tried to send you an email, but my iPad won't bring up the email for some reason, so I couldn't send you an email. And I just wanted to tell you how well written it was and how I appreciated getting it as an educator, but the fact that you took the time to do that, I just thought I wanted to compliment you and thank you for doing that. I also like your sneakers.
Emily?
Can I ask a follow-up question? Do we, Dr. Plessis, do we have Sandy Hook Promise or Start with Hello programming in any of our grade levels, or are there discussions of adding that?
We do not have those two specific items at the mental health presentation. We mentioned that both Nick, Natalie, and I attended a program at School Boards Association called Sanford Harmony. We had them come out to an administrative team and make a presentation. We are hoping that we can move forward with this organization, which would provide us with a free program so that teachers and students can participate in social problem solving and decision making. So we have a very fine character ed program in the district that is called the Pillars of Character, and I've always liked that. I've had that in other districts. What I like about, and certainly we don't want to move away from that, what I liked about the Sanford Harmony program is, number one, it would be free. We would be one of the first in New Jersey to have it, but it's an actual direct instruction in decision making. And what I'm finding and what our teachers are reporting is that students really don't know how to make decisions, that they've never, for whatever reason, it's not either taught to them in an informal way or a formal way. So we were excited about that, and Nick and Natalie and I will follow up. But we spent a lot of time looking at it. We think it would be a real step forward.
Just a follow-up question. I mean, it sounds like these programs, I'm not too familiar with the Start with Hello or Sandy Hook Promise, but it sounds a little bit different from that in the sense that it's teaching kids how to watch for signs of other kids being in trouble and how to create a more inclusive peer culture.
We'll certainly, we haven't made any recommendation to the board in regards to that, but we're certainly willing to review any literature that you have. But I do get a sense that, we have a wide array of social issues in the country and in the state and in the district, and that I have always thought that the best approach is multiple approaches rather than one. And sometimes we would find that it could be a combination. I mentioned the Pillars of Character. I love the Pillars of Character, but I think we need to move beyond that, keep that, move beyond. I mean, there are many options out there. What is very interesting that I see happening in public education is that in the last few years there's been a real, I think, recognition by administration, boards, and teachers that we need to go beyond our pure academic role and get into the causes of some of the behaviors that we see. And so, you know that we have the mental health program. To me, we need to have children that are able to function so that we can deliver them the academic program. And all of these programs help us put children in a state of mind where they can learn in the classroom. So I think multiple approaches might be needed, but I would like to review that literature, and we will be sharing the information that we have from Sanford Harmony with the board as well.
Ron, you want to say something?
Yeah, two things. I was sent the Sandy Hook Promise program, which I think is very good. It's something that I did bring up to Dr. Palestis about looking into. And the two other things is, one, if you notice, we added more money for mental health. We want to bring it to the high school because we've seen how successful it's been, and because these children do have a lot of issues that they're dealing with, and they don't have a place to talk. We are blessed within our own district of having our own people that are phenomenal, especially in the high school level at that age where they're going through a lot of changes and everything else. But just one other thing I wanted to bring up today, I found it very fascinating. I was fortunate enough today to read at Mellon's to third grade students, and I was able to read the Bully book. And I gotta tell you something, these children blew me away on how they understood what bullying really is. I mean, at third grade, they understood how you should treat somebody, why you should do this, why you should do that. And after we read the whole book, I asked them why they thought this person was so bad, and they really picked up on it. So I was happy to see that, because that means that they're starting to understand about being nice to each other and treating each other, because that's another big problem that I don't think people realize so many times, that bullying goes that far where either you're gonna do something to yourself or do something to other people that just treated you like a piece of garbage, and they don't realize that. So it really, really was awesome this morning. I was like, made my day to see these third graders like totally understand what's going on. And like I said, but I like those programs. I'd like to look into that other one that you brought up too, the whole health.
Mike?
I have to say, just to piggyback on Ron, as an educator, I have noticed a lot of changes in my career, kids, and I have noticed the same thing. The kids are a lot more aware. They don't always make the right decisions because they're kids, okay? But they're a lot more aware of how they treat other people. Would you agree with that in the high school level too? Yeah, absolutely. That especially in the past, I would say in the past 5-6 years, that's really, every year I see it a little better. And when I talk to kids about bad choices that they've made, that I've seen them make, they are thoroughly get upset that they did that. They do reflect on it, more so than at the beginning of my career. So, so I think while these programs are really good, and I think especially that they are helping, and that's a positive that's coming out, and we just have to keep continuing it, and we have to watch those kids that have, usually when a kid goes beyond that and doesn't do that, it seems to me that those are the kids that have problems at home, other things they're dealing with. So I'm willing. I think we should do all that stuff.
Just state your name.
Larissa Mendez-Downs. I just want to underscore that Moms Demand Action, like many of these organizations, doesn't put the onus on teachers who have enough to do, or administrators, or the kids themselves. But that because we live in a country where there are more than 300 million guns, these are but several of the steps. I just kind of want to make sure that it's understood that Moms believes is more guns is more gun deaths. That's statistically proven. And the problem is our access to said guns, but I do believe that the addressing of all these things that, as Dr. Palestis says, it's a multi-leveled issue that we need to tackle as a society, and these are a couple of programs that are free to us.
Yeah, I've heard of your program too.
Cindy?
I just wanted to thank you for bringing this forward to our attention. I really appreciate it, because I was not aware of either program. And I also wanted to address Dawn. When I saw you the other night at the high school, we were talking. I saw that you had these big boxes of envelopes. I had no clue what you were doing, and I just want to thank you for doing what you did. You didn't have to. You did it silently. You did it with passion, and I think it helped. And I'm glad that we're on the same page about a lot of those things. And I just couldn't believe how much you sent out, and like I just had no clue that that's what you were doing. And when I heard about everybody receiving these letters, I was so happy. So thank you for that.
Be clear, it was NJE. It was NJEA members that lived in Fairlawn that received these letters from the NJEA, the local FLEA's president.
Right, and I just,
just so you know.
It's not, it wasn't just my effort. I had a lot of my association members helping with stuffing and stamping, and there were, we actually sent out over 1,000 letters to the residents of, to the NJEA current as well as retired members of NJEA. And I just want to state, and I think you guys, hopefully you all know this, but we, the Fairlawn Education Association, really are happy with the district that we work with, which, you know, I reiterate over and over again, the number of years that people spend here in the district. And we always want to work together with the central office as well as with the Board of Education in trying to do anything that can help to benefit our students. And that's really the goal here. And if there's anything else that we can do or work together to, you know, I mean, we'll work together on, you know, a lot of different things. Just we hope to continue that relationship with the board and with the central offices.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you. Emily?
I'd like to respectfully request that maybe it doesn't have to be tomorrow, but at some point, maybe we could have an education committee meeting topic on this domain of the pillars of character, the mental health initiative, the Sanford Harmony, the Sandy Hook Promise offerings. So we're not just, I'm just curious to see, I mean, socio-emotional and character and social, it's like it's a big bucket, and it feels like all these different programs kind of address it from different angles. So it would be interesting to have an education committee meeting where we can actually hear a little bit more, if the public wants to hear more, and see that we're just not layering on programs on top of programs, but they're kind of coalescing to what we as a community want to have in this space for our kids in our schools. So that could be helpful.
Ernie, can the administration look into it, report back to us, and have a set up something for one of the 2 end of the year
Sure.
education?
Actually, I also just wrote down, bringing this kind of topic forward as a general theme to an education committee.
Any other members in the audience? David?
Yeah, David Treiner. I just want to say, the events yesterday, me personally, I think made me proud in terms of the way Fairlawn schools and Fairlawn High School and Mr. Marcella handled everything. I was lucky enough to see the letter that was sent home to parents, and I think it was written so well and handled so well, and giving the children the option to either participate or not participate, and really emphasize that there were no ramifications to doing one or the other. And from what I understand, it was all carried out that way, and from what Mary and what other people reported. And I just think that knowing that it didn't happen like that in every town makes me proud of what happened in Fairlawn. I also want to say, and that not as known, but I know at Memorial they had an assembly about student activism or how students can make a difference, and then afterwards had a little bit of a walkout. My daughter is a 7th grader, so details are sketchy, as anyone who's ever had a 7th grader can tell you. But you know, she did participate. They were given the option to participate or not, and I asked her what it was about. She said it was, you know, to remember the people that were killed in Florida. I'm happy with that level of explanation. But I just want to say it does make me proud to be in a district and to have people like Ms. Marcella an administration that allows this to happen and allows children to make their own decision, and like Mike said, they don't always make the right decision, but it's also good to get reps in making decisions, because, you know, they'll be for real soon, and so to be able to get those reps and to understand one way or the other, it's, you know, and hopefully parents reinforcing that, and, you know, whatever you believe, that to be able to go out there and do this. I just want to say thank you to Ms. Marcella, especially to how it was handled. I think it was great.
Jeff,
Quick question, I'm sorry to belabor this, folks, it's getting late. All the schools, Dr. Plessis, all the schools were given the same directive in terms of having kids be able to express themselves or have some type of program for them? Or were there any schools that were less inclined to allow for this as a learning opportunity?
All of the schools, middle schools and up, use it as a learning activity. So at Thomas Jefferson, the students in social studies classes were learning a basic civics lesson about activism, writing letters to representatives, how can one get involved with changing society. The difference at Memorial is that was more broad-based on an assembly. At TJ was smaller and took place within the classroom.
And that's...
Our judgment was that elementary students at this point, it was probably inappropriate to introduce some of this, because, you know, we need to use judgment, and what I mean by that is, how do we even explain this whole thing to somebody who's in the 3rd grade or whatever the grade level is?
I want to follow that up. Do you know what kids were told at the individual schools besides the high school, what would happen if they chose to walk? Would that have been allowed?
It would have been allowed. And my principals were directed for me that there would be no consequence for a child, however, for walking. However, if a student was inappropriate when they were outside, then we would just apply the disciplinary code. But I saw none of that at the high school at all.
Did I see another hand someplace? Yes.
I just wanted to piggyback.
Just state your name, please.
Anne Marie Colbert, piggyback on David. My daughter's a freshman in high school, social anxiety and lots of stuff. I just want to say it was handled so well, knowing the police would be there, and she chose to walk. So, you know, nervous, but I think she was thinking it would be a target or something, and then once she went, you know.
I do want to add and just acknowledge that, you know, we had tremendous support from the Fairlawn police. They were very visible, and, you know, many schools shied away from doing something. And the selection of the site, we had to change because we had snow on the field, but the police were wonderful as well.
Okay, any other audience members? All right, I know we've had a lot of board comments, but if there's something else that anybody in the board would like to speak about, Emily?
So, Jean, you referenced a conversation I had with Senator Bob Gordon. It wasn't about so much grant money being available for Social Security. It was more on the idea of,
Come on.
I know, sorry. I didn't ask about that. Maybe there's something.
Well, I said, I'm not sure if there's going to be any money, which, you know, it's always
Yeah.
problematic with the state.
Yeah, we could ask him. He expressed interest in perhaps partnering with Fairlawn as part of his legislative district to do a regional forum on safety in schools, and that's something that, like, his office could help get speakers to come in and do that. And I know that we as a board were talking about doing that within Fairlawn, because it seems like that's what the community wants, some space to learn and discuss the issues, and we were talking about something in collaboration with the police department. But I just wanted to hear from board colleagues while we're having our meeting that if this is something that we would be interested in pursuing, doing kind of not just for Fairlawn, but a little bit more regionally. It would allow us an opportunity to have other school districts also participate and maybe get a little bit of a less myopic view, but we don't have to do it. So I just wanted to get your sense before following back up with him or having somebody else on the board follow back up. It doesn't have to be me.
It's supposed to be me. Yes. I think Ernie and I threw that around briefly. I am the liaison to the legislators.
Oh, great.
If that's certainly something the board is interested in doing, I'd be happy to do a full court press on getting as many politicos as possible in the room to discuss those things. Maybe if they want to do that in concert with the rest of the 38.
Well, I think it'd be something you should talk to them about. I don't know, it may go nowhere, it may, but I think it's an interesting concept. Yeah, that we could host it, and either at the high school, or maybe Bob would want to do it. You mentioned the community center.
Jeff, are you gonna be there next week, the
FSA.
29th at the Bergen County meeting?
Yes, to my calendar.
Because the legislators from the state are supposed to be there.
Yeah, so you could approach him there and just feel him out and see what we can do with it. All right. Sounds like a plan. Any other board members? Mike?
So on the 29th, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to be there because it's the beginning of, I have a half day that day and then vacation, so, is the Bergen County meeting, it's combined with Passaic County, it's at...
It's at Maggiano's, right?
Yeah.
Maggiano's.
It's at Maggiano's, so you just have to tell, Sam.
What date is that? The 29th.
29th.
Don't we have a meeting?
No.
No.
Oh.
7 o'clock, yes?
I feel like every night.
No, and, yeah, and you should have gotten actually a thing from school boards today in your email.
March 30th. March 30th. I don't know, I might have.
And remember that the education meeting is Monday. Monday night at 7:30, because the art show opens at 6:30 at the rec center. So I figured that as many board members that can make it could go over there first, because it's a wonderful, 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 wonderful program, everybody.
It opens at 6:30?
Yes. And then come here for 7:30.
I'm not sure, but I think it might be one day.
Are you gonna talk about scheduling committee meetings?
Yeah, but that's like the last thing.
Great.
Anybody else? I have something. I got an email from Steve Weinstein, our former councilman. He was the mayor too at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's now chairman of the Fair Lawn Economic Development Committee. And they would like a rep from the Board of Education to talk to Steve and maybe go to their meetings. They had a meeting tonight, so there's no way to get anything done before that. But I think it's a good idea. I'm not sure exactly what they do, but at least, you know, he's concerned that the board should be involved with some of this stuff, which is it was a nice change.
Do we have any idea what they do?
Elise, you want to do it? Fair Lawn Economic Development Committee. I'm not sure exactly.
The Radburn area, right, Josh?
I'm just here as a parent.
Fair Lawn Economic Development Committee. It's not just Radburn.
Yeah, no, the EDC looks for areas to stimulate development in town. Right now, they're looking for the Radburn Plaza Road.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, they just want to get some input and some information.
Economic development for the whole town.
But I think, Gene, I think they're interested in making sure that any type of development does not cause.
Yeah, they want to keep us in the loop. And so I'll give Steve your contact information.
He
And,
has it.
all right.
You're on it?
Well, I'm like a founding member. I was on the original committee. I'm on the Broadway.
Yeah, you're on. Yeah, I thought you were on the Broadway, but you're on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa's volunteering. There's no pay. Okay, I think that's it. Committee meetings. All right, so the monthly meeting will be the third Thursday, which
It's
is
actually April 26th.
Right, because of the break.
26th because of the break. Sorry, you emailed me this morning. It's not the 19th. It's 26th.
Who park is that day?
April 26th.
I gotta look for that.
It's not because of the break, it's because of my budget calendar.
Oh,
My
okay.
budget,
Oh.
the last
I
day
was
for
gonna
me
say,
to
the
do
break
a
is-
public hearing is.
That's what I was saying, the break is.
Okay.
Okay, I was wrong.
So the public meeting is the 26th at 7:30.
Services, are we good with that date?
What? All right, are we having education again in April, or we just, you
No,
know?
I think it's May.
May, okay.
Did we want another?
Oh, you're not a Flexion, right?
Did we want another technology?
Technology?
For April?
What's the schedule? What's our, we should stick to the schedule. What's the schedule say? We made the schedule, we gotta stick.
Yeah, but it's complicated.
At least look at it.
We'll do after that.
Okay.
Well, that's right.
April, policy is the second Monday.
Of
April, we're just talking about April.
Do you
Can't
need
do
a
it.
policy?
Is that the ninth?
Yeah, but we can't do it, that's break.
Okay.
Isn't it? No, that's not, that's my
Oh,
break.
yeah.
Not, but it's a Monday we come back.
Yeah, but it's my
April
break.
9th is policy, if you want
Do
a
we need
policy.
one?
March
We're gonna need one, but you might wanna.
You want to do it the 16th?
April 16th, I kind of have a tentative shared service.
Okay, yeah. How about,
That's a Wednesday.
I gave her the 3 dates that I was good for, so.
23rd?
Wasn't it April 16th?
How about policy on April 23rd? Okay.
Policy, April 23rd.
Right now, we're okay with it, I'll let you know tomorrow, I don't have my class schedule in front of me.
7. And then this says the fourth Thursday, well, that's already, you want to have, who's athletics co-curricular? Who's it? You want to do that before the public meeting at 7:30? Can you do that, or
Do you need a?
do you need it?
We haven't met.
Yeah, I want to.
As a committee, we haven't.
Well, do you want to meet before the public? You want to pick another date in April?
Yeah, April 16th.
April 16th, I have a tentative shared service.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay.
I was talking, yeah. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's what I.
I sent her the dates back, I sent Gail the dates back.
No for April 16th?
I don't know, I don't remember what, I gotta go back to my email.
Could
There's
you let
only
me-
a certain number of dates, and I gave her the dates that I was good for.
Okay. Could,
Like 8.
All right. Well, you guys, that's the shared service. So you guys can figure that out.
Jim, no, I can't do before the meeting.
You know what,
Student
Jeff?
dialogue. So-
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. So pick another date in April.
For April 16th.
No, I don't know what date, but I'm saying.
Ron, I'm sorry, can we pencil in April 16th, and if Ron can't make it, we'll modify it?
Yeah.
I think that is it, like the scheduling was such a mess, I think she asked
Well,
everyone for their availability.
I know, but
Yeah,
with
so
due
right,
respect
there's available dates,
to,
and I
with due
sent
respect to the councilwoman,
I sent her exactly what she wanted.
with due respect to the councilwoman, it's our meeting also, and she can't dictate that to us. And it's my committee, and I set the date, not her.
No, well.
And if one of my committee people can't make it, we're gonna set the date to a day he can, whether she likes it or not.
All right. Well, you guys email back and forth. I don't know.
So, what about, Mike, when are you, when's our break, I forgot, when's our
The
break?
first week of April.
So April, right after Easter, right, so it's, okay.
Your turn?
Starting out of the athletic.
Down the hall on the left.
Alright, so you want for the athletic committee meeting on the 9th?
Athletics on the 9th. Athletic co-
April
April.
9th.
April 9th?
I don't, there wasn't another meeting just set at?
No, we were
April
gonna do
9th was
policy,
supposed to
but
be policy, but we're
Doesn't matter.
changing it to the 23rd.
You give
Okay,
me the
April
dates
9th.
and I work my way around. I work
April
my
9th.
schedule.
Jim, you
April
okay
9th.
with that?
Extracurricular.
April 9th?
Yeah, co-curricular.
April 9th, it's the Monday we come back from vacation. You okay with that? I just wanna get together, go over a few things with you, Corey, and
And we're gonna
stuff.
do that here.
What would it be,
Nine.
7 p.m.?
What the helmets?
Jeff, I'll put them on the calendar. I'll put them all on it.
Okay, so I don't have to go
I'll talk
crazy.
about it.
Yeah, just remind me, I think I
We're not,
remember.
you know, we like having the text
Alright, so
savvy
April
now.
9th.
That's not till May. All right, to the schedule.
All right, I think we've kind of lost control here.
April 9th at 7 p.m. for the co-curricular, or 7:30? 7?
Jim, you want 7 too late, or you
Or you
wanna?
want to do it early?
Yeah, that was quick.
Community relations in May.
Alright, 7 o'clock.
It's only 10
Oh,
o'clock.
yeah, there is. No, she didn't
Yeah,
realize
that was
we had
really
scheduled.
fast.
What do you want, what kind of meeting you want, what committee?
Community relations.
Oh, came from Brooke? That was quick.
Okay.
What?
The invitation.
He said I'll be out of the office.
I didn't do it yet.
Someone did it.
All right. So I think we
Someone
got the
emailed
meeting
him
set
and we
then.
got copied on.
All right. Could I have a motion to recess into closed session?
So moved.
We'll come back out.
We'll come back out. We're going to discuss HIB and some personnel issues. We're going to come back out to vote on the HIB.
I gotta run to my car.
Go ahead. We're taking a 5-minute break.